I've watched. I've watched long and hard. And I've come to some conclusions about the looks on the faces of people when they're confronted with things which, for one reason or another, I don't think the business of understanding is a matter of intellect. I think it is a matter of will and choice. And I also think that it is a matter that in many instances goes beyond that which... Somebody told me an idiotic little gag, and it kind of points this up. And I'll tell you where the gag was told to me. It was a terrible thing. I was down on my knees changing a tire in the rain, and this guy's standing over me with a flashlight, and he says, "You know, this reminds me of a joke." I said, "Oh yeah, it would." Only this is an interesting facet of man. Men, I can say, that only men can laugh in the face of disaster. Women can't. I've never seen a woman who could. Not real disaster. It's the kind of humor that will make a guy go through 3 years of training in the Army, you know. He is kicked from pillar to post for the first 4 months taking his basic training. And then, you know, he goes from one thing to the other. And each thing it's like a rising crescendo of indecency that is heaped upon him. One thing after the other, until he finally is stripped naked of everything. He has not even the slightest pin feather of society left back in that little dark recess in the underarm of man. And there he is, you see. He's now naked. They put him on a boat that at one time was called the Ile de France, some beautiful ancient vessel that carried the steaming, orgiastic hordes to Europe and back. And they put him on a boat, and he goes all the way over, see, someplace. And then they put him on another boat. They blow the whistle. He's charging up the beach, and he sees coming right down at him an 88 shell, and he knows it's all over. And in that last split second, he laughs his fool head off, just before the shell takes it off for good. And I have seen him do it. Now, I know of no woman who could do this, or does. And this is an interesting thing. I'm going to get a lot of indignant letters immediately from women claiming they do. Now, this is not, I'm not against, nor am I, this is not an anti-woman or a pro-woman thing. Interestingly enough, anytime you point out the difference, that there is a difference between men and women, women get mad and all men nod their heads. It's fascinating, you know? And so I'm down there on my knees, you see, and the rain is coming down, and I'm changing a tire. I'm 400 miles away from any civilization or any air pump. And I'm working away down there in the mire. I think it's good for a man to have a flat tire occasionally. I mean a real flat in his power steering, power windowed, power top monster. Once in a while, and I mean a flat where he's way out somewhere with no spare, where he's got to wrestle with the soil. Boom! And then instantly his Chris Craft has been scuttled. And it goes blum, blum, blum. He feels the road for the first time in 4 years, and he gets out and he looks at this thing that's all flat and laying all over the ground there, and he said, "What's this?" He gets out his instruction book, and it says, "You have a flat tire. Here's what you do now. You take that big round shiny thing off, and you take that other thing that's in the trunk there, that big long thing that rattles, you take that out and you stick it under your bumper and you start to pump." And one of the most precarious things in today's world is pumping up a modern, gigantic Chris Craft car up on one of those tiny, spindly jacks. They just ain't made to be jacked up. I mean, you know, it's like putting matchsticks under a whale. And this thing is going up, and you finally get, and I'm down there on my knees, you see, with this giant looming over me. And, of course, you know, there's a sense of impending doom there, too. And I'm taking off the tire, and it's raining, and the guy says, "This reminds me of a thing." I said, "What?" He says, "A gag." I says, "Okay." And he says, "Well, there were two guys, you see, and they're in this home. They're in this home for the incurably insane, and they're working away on something, and they're trying to change the tire on a car that's on the grounds there, and they're working around, and they're working away there, and they got the nuts and the bolts off, and it turns out that one of the bolts has been lost. And so one of the guys stands up there, and he says to the other guys, "Tell you what, let's do. Let's take one off of each one, and we'll We'll get them all, we'll even them all up that way, you see, and there'll be one missing on each one. That way we won't have any trouble, which makes sense, technically. And so the guy looks up, he says, gee, that's a great idea. And the second one says, look, I may be insane, but I'm not stupid. Now that's exactly what I'm talking about, you see. We like to confuse the insane with the stupid. And then and incidentally, I have found that many of the insane are the sanest I have ever met. It is the sanity, the very sanity, that drives them over the brink. This is another problem which we have not yet come to grips with. But the thing that I have noticed is the wonderful, bored, stony face that comes upon a man when he is confronted with that which he never concerns himself with. The inexplicable, the unknown, the secret sneaking fears. He becomes then bored, interestingly enough. And I guess this is nature's way of protecting the fool. Is the only thing I can say about that, you know. It's what they say about drunks, and what else is it that nature protects? Well, I also say that it protects something else. And it's this curtain that descends, this wonderful curtain of righteousness and total knowledge that descends over the complete boob, who knows exactly how he's going to vote and why, and figures that he has his life all calculated out, and he knows exactly what it's about and where it's leading him. And yet, you know, it's interesting. I knew a boob one time. A real boob. I mean, what I call a boob. I mean, an intelligent. You know what I mean by the boob? The guy who will hear the song of the changeling and say, "What's this idiot talking about?" But yet, at the same time, who seems to operate well in the society. You know, the more boob you become, I found in our society, and when I say boob, I'm using it in the Mankenian terms. The more boobish you are, the better you will make it in our society. In almost all the society, because there's never any question, you know, about what to do or what not to do. And so, the interesting thing about the boob, though, is that he has his doubts occasionally. And when he has his doubts, he generally attacks those around him who cause the doubt to come into being. You know, this is a fascinating thing. Like the time I'm sitting in a sales meeting, and the sales meeting is drumming on, and they're talking about Operation Dynamic, which was going to be our new operation for the fall. You know, this is going to put us right over the top. Operation Dynamic. We had these big charts and graphs and all the slides and the little films and stuff. This is, by the way, this is one of the major industries now in our abstract world, is the presentation, where one man presents something to another man. Actually, it's one group presents something to another group, and it's a kind of self-affirmation thing, where they all sit around waiting for the hosannas to rise and the hallelujahs. And if the hallelujahs are scattered, then they bring out another prayer rug and try again, you see. And the gods become ourselves, you see. We hosanna each other or hallelujah each other or strike each other with bolts of lightning. And so we're constantly propitiating the gods with our various presentations of one kind or another. Our films and our excoriating shouts to the heavens, constantly hoping that the gods will smile, namely the sales manager this time. And then the sales manager hopes that the agency reps will smile. And the agency reps hope that the sponsors will smile. And the sponsors hope that the public will smile. And the public hopes that the TV set will smile. And then it goes all the way around, and the full circle comes, and it is nothing but an ancient druidic ring of supplicants. All of them looking up into the darkening sky, waiting for the message. But that's neither here nor there. And so, but it is, you see, here and there. I'm sitting there in the middle of the sales meeting, and this clown suddenly says, "Well, what?" He raises his hand and he says, "What happened to Operation Windfall?" That was last year's operation. See, that was going to bring us into the safe harbor. And there's a dead silence. And he says, "Well, this is a new year. We have Operation Dynamic now." He says, "Yeah, but what? I mean, it's a new year, but it really isn't. We're all here. It's just me and you, and the year is just a thing we thought of. Actually, you know, the sun came up and the sun came down, and now we got Operation Dynamic." And there's a kind of a funny chuckle. And then after the guy leaves, about three of them are getting together. Says, "What is this beatnik idiot?" Oh, what a pain in the duff. And anyway, I had this friend who was a boob, and he was a true boob, in that never a doubt ever ruffled the placid stream of his existence. And one day, this boob friend of mine, of course, whenever any of us would talk about the world at large and in general, about things that be and the things that aren't, he would say, "Oh, come on, what is this beatnik? Interesting now. Anything that smacks of trouble is now dismissed as beatnik talk." I love that. Oh, daddy-o. And so this guy, this is kind of an interesting little, I don't know whether it has a moral or not, but this boob friend of mine, of course, naturally, he was important. All boobs are. And he was one of the guiding forces in the organization. Well, one day, he gets out of his car on the wrong side and got hit by a cab. It knocked him 400 feet in the air and 35 feet down a side street. It was a perfect divot shot. And they picked him up, and they took him off to the hospital, and they put things all over him, and they wrapped him up and poured concrete around him and made him completely immobile and put pulleys over his head. And then they put a chart above his head, and the chart kept going up and down. And it went down oftener than went up. And he's up there looking at it, see? And I came to see him after they finally allowed visitors to come in. And he has a new look in his eye. And I'm looking at him, and he's lying there, and I said something to the effect, "How you feeling, Charlie?" He says, "What difference does it make?" I says, "What do you mean, what difference does it make? How do you feel, you idiot?" He says, "Well, I guess all right." And so he slowly mended. He finally made it back to the land of the living. He came back to the office. He was there 2 weeks, and he had a fist fight with our boss. About the very thing that we had been talking about for years, this business of Operation Dynamic. Well, he had joined us. Now, I don't know whether he was worse off or better off. You see, I can't tell. He had drunk lonesome water, is what he had done.